Welcome to The Explainer. Today, we're going to dive into the critical and often totally invisible world of functional safety engineering. This is the discipline that keeps us safe when the technology we depend on, well, when it doesn't work as planned.
Okay, so let's kick things off with a core idea that might actually surprise you. It's a fundamental shift in how we usually think about technology, supposed to work perfectly all the time. This quote it nails the mindset perfectly. See, engineers in this field start with a basic truth. Things will always fail, eventually. A sensor will go haywire, a line of code will glitch. So the goal isn't to build some impossible, perfect system. It's to design one that can fail gracefully and, most importantly, fail safely. So what does that actually look like? Well, it means that when a fault happens, let's say in your car's anti-lock braking system, a safety mechanism is already there, ready to kick in and prevent a dangerous situation, like you losing control of the car. And believe me, this isn't some niche little field. It is the hidden safety net in the most high-stakes technology we use every single day. From the car you drive, to the robots on a factory floor, to the medical devices in a hospital, functional safety is like the guardian angel inside the machine. Now, to get this level of safety right across an entire industry, you can't just have engineers improvising or winging it. You need a rulebook, a really strict, internationally recognized rulebook. And you'll see these standards for all sorts of industries where failure is not a good option. But for the automotive world, the absolute gold standard is ISO 26262. This is the Bible, the comprehensive guide that car makers and all their suppliers have to follow to the letter to prove their systems are safe. And this standard, it defines an incredibly rigorous life cycle. Safety isn't some feature you tack on at the end. Oh no. It is built in from the very first napkin sketch of an idea, all the way through development, production, and right up to the day that car is decommissioned. Every single step has to be planned and documented. So how does this whole process actually get started? Well, a huge piece of the puzzle is figuring out just how dangerous a potential failure could be. Because, not all failures are created equal. To answer this question, engineers don't just rely on gut feelings. They use a systematic process to classify risk into very specific, defined levels. It's all about taking a fuzzy concept like danger and making it totally measurable. This system is called the Automotive Safety Integrity Level, or ASIL for short. It's basically a letter grade for risk. It goes from ASIL A for low-risk stuff, like your parking sensors, all the way up to ASIL D. That's for the most critical systems where failure could be catastrophic. We're talking airbags, brakes. ASIL D demands the absolute highest level of rigor. So how do they actually land on that letter grade? It's a careful calculation based on 3 key questions. First, severity. How bad could the injuries be? Second, exposure. How often are you even in a situation where this failure could matter? And finally, controllability. If the thing fails, can the driver realistically prevent a disaster? Okay, so once that risk level is locked in, that's when the real engineering fun begins. The whole goal becomes designing a system that actually expects to fail and knows exactly what to do when it happens. To figure out all the ways things could go wrong, engineers use 2 different but complementary ways of thinking. One is called FMEA, which is a bottom-up approach. They look at a single tiny component, like a resistor, and ask, okay, what happens if this one thing breaks? The other is FTA, which is top-down. It starts with the disaster, like the brakes failed, and works backward to uncover every possible combination of things that could have caused it. And all that analysis leads to the clever countermeasures they build right into the system. For example, a watchdog timer is like a little heartbeat monitor. If the main computer freezes up, the watchdog notices the missed beat and forces a reboot. Or you've got dual-core lockstep, which is brilliant. It's like having 2 separate chefs cook the exact same meal, and if their dishes aren't identical, you know something's gone wrong with one of them. So let's pull back the curtain a little bit. What does a day in the life actually look like for one of these system guardians? Let's check out the documents they create, the special tools they use, and what their career path looks like. First off, this job involves a massive amount of documentation. To meet the standard, you have to prove everything. The safety case is the big one. It's basically the final book of evidence that lays out the entire argument for why the system is safe, with proof to back up every single claim. And they're not doing this with a Word doc and a prayer. They have these incredibly powerful, specialized software tools for everything. They use things like MATLAB for simulating failures and traceability tools like doors to create a digital thread that links every single requirement to its design and its test case. And for the people who really get this stuff, who master the super complex world, there's a very clear and rewarding career path. You might start as an analyst deep in the weeds and grow into an architect designing the safety concepts for whole vehicles, and eventually lead entire safety and compliance teams. And that brings us right back full circle to that core idea we started with. This whole field isn't about some impossible chase for perfection. It's about the very pragmatic, very humble, and very critical work of designing for safety when things, as they always do, go wrong. You know, when you boil it all down, being great at this job requires a special kind of mindset. You have to think like a risk analyst, have a deep understanding of how things fail in the real world, master that rigorous process, and be an incredible collaborator. Because safety isn't one person's job, it touches every single part of engineering. So I'll leave you with this to think about. The next time you get in a car or step onto an airplane, just take a second to appreciate all the invisible engineering, all the planning, all the analysis that is there for one reason: to protect you when things don't go according to plan.